everybody? Welcome to the KeepitKayfabe podcast. I'm here alone today. We're going to talk about UFC 202, NXT results, Raw and SmackDown. There's a lot of injuries, a lot of news coming out of this, and at the end we have some Jon Jones news and some Nate Diaz potential news, so stay tuned for that at the end of the show. So this weekend at UFC 202, Conor McGregor stuck in there and he beat Nate Diaz in a majority decision in a relatively crazy fight. There was a few knockdowns in the first round by Conor McGregor, and he easily outclassed Diaz when he had gas, but that wasn't the case the whole fight. In the third round, he lost a lot of energy, and he almost gassed out just like the first fight. But he hung in there. Diaz delivered a 10-8 round on a few judges' scorecards in the third round, but McGregor came back. He won the fourth. He probably didn't win the fifth round, but some of the judges even gave it to him. So now he's hung in there for a 5-round fight. It wasn't a title fight, but Diaz is a high-level guy. He's not elite. He's still not top 5 in either division. So it's not like McGregor went 5 rounds with somebody elite. He definitely could hang with the bigger names. He knocked out Jose Aldo in the first couple seconds, but McGregor did a great job here, and even the hardcore fans are going to be won over a little bit. And as long as he doesn't face any crazy legends or older names, he's probably going to be rooted for by everybody, casuals and hardcore fans alike. It is interesting to note that Nate Diaz could not be cornered by his brother Nick Diaz because a few years ago, after fighting Anderson Silva, Nick Diaz was suspended for 5 years and I think a $100,000 fine. That got reduced in the time since, and he's actually off suspension now, so he was eligible to corner his brother, but he hasn't paid his fine yet. So the Nevada State Athletic Commission said if he paid a portion of his fine, then he would be able to corner Nate Diaz, but he said no, and talks stopped shortly after that, so it was only Jake Shields and Gilbert Melendez in the Diaz corner. And speaking of suspensions and fines, Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor are both going to be heavily fined for the brawl a few days prior to their main event fight because both Diaz and members of his corner threw bottles and hit members of the media and family members and stuff like that, and they're probably going to face at least 6-figure fines because disclosed pay was Conor McGregor received $3 million, and he reportedly actually received around $15 million, but that's not official, not disclosed or anything, but officially he received $3 million, and Diaz received $2 million. So, I think I could be wrong. I think Nevada State is the ones who are going to fine them. So Nevada State typically is pretty lenient, but with the Diaz brothers, you never know. They fined Nick in a really unfair way in the past, so they're probably going to do the same to his brother here. As for Conor, since he got a really big purse, even 10% of that's huge, so we'll see. And the news really never stops between these two because at the post-fight press conference, Nate Diaz was blowing a CBD vape pen, which is like a marijuana oil vape pen. And this normally wouldn't be a problem because he has a license in California, and theoretically he applied for an exemption. But even if he applies for an exemption, it can't be used in competition. And up until 6 hours after the fight is considered in competition. However, it's believed that Nate had already passed his post-fight drug test from USADA and then attended the post-fight press conference. So he had already taken his drug test. He went to this press conference. He started blowing this CBD vape pen. And while it is banned in competition, and if it was in competition, he theoretically could be suspended for, a 2-year ban, just like everyone else who fails these PED or drug tests. Maybe not as severe because, it's only a weed pen. But either way, it's worth noting that most people at the post-fight press conference are drinking a beer, and alcohol is also prohibited during the in-competition period. So if they're going to suspend Diaz here for this, they would also have to go and look at everyone else at the post-fight press conference and see what they were doing and suspend them accordingly. That's just if they want to be fair to everybody. That's not really how they work, but if that's how it was, if they really were fair to everybody, then that's how it would be. And after the fight, McGregor was also suspended for 6 months because of leg injury. And it's believed that he didn't break his leg, but he might have fractured his shin kicking Diaz. So stay tuned for that. He's probably not going to be fighting anytime soon, but it's believed that he's going to go to 155 and fight Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title, and he's probably not going to make the drop to 145 again. They might let him keep the belt just for the sake of letting him be called a two-division champion, but that would be ridiculous. They should really, force him to drop that featherweight belt if he's not going to defend it at 145. And at this point, I don't even know if he could make the weight, and speculation is he can't. In the co-main event of the evening, we saw Anthony Rumble Johnson knock out Glover Teixeira in 13 seconds. There was only like 2 exchanges in the whole fight, and Rumble Johnson came forward with a brutal uppercut that just sent Glover flying. And rumors were that somebody in the crowd caught one of Glover's teeth. And it's very similar to when Lyoto Machida knocked out Randy Couture with the Karate Kid front kick to the face. And yeah, that was insane. He put him away. And Rumble Johnson is a scary, scary boy. Rumors are he's going to fight Jon Jones if Jon Jones comes off suspension, which we have to talk about right now. Jon Jones, the rumor is that he failed his drug test, not for estrogen blockers now, as was previously reported, rather Cialis. Now, Brian Redband on the Joe Rogan Experience a couple days before was joking that Joe Rogan, that Jon Jones failed for boner pills, and that's exactly what Cialis is. Cialis is boner pills. So that is banned. So, I mean, he should still get a suspension, but it probably wouldn't be a 2-year ban. It would probably be more like a slap on the wrist and a 6-month suspension, if anything, maybe even less. Maybe they'll just let him fight. According to Dana White, it seems to be pretty good to go. He says he wasn't supposed to talk about it on the record, I think, but it's looking pretty good for Jon Jones right now. He's still not out of the woods yet, and he could still face a 2-year ban. It's not likely, but as Dana White said, Jon Jones has 9 lives. You never know. I guess he's just going to keep coming back, so we'll see how it goes from here, and if he can stay clean, he should be able to get back to a fight with Cormier. Cormier has said he's not interested in fighting Jon Jones, but it's inevitable if Jones is clean and he keeps winning. We have some breaking news here. Rory MacDonald has signed with Bellator. He's no longer with the UFC. He's been removed from the UFC rankings. He was a free agent after his last fight with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he lost a 5-round decision to Wonderboy. It really wasn't that close. But UFC would have re-signed Rory for a pretty significant deal, so Bellator must be really digging deep in their pockets to sign Rory. He is a notable name in the welterweight division and probably the biggest active name in Canada. He's the biggest Canadian fighter other than George St-Pierre. And George St-Pierre is also rumored to come back for UFC 206. So, I mean, it's probably not the end of the road for Rory in the UFC because he's probably going to come back after he rides out his Bellator contract and probably signs for way, way more down the line with the UFC. Because the paydays are starting to increase. I mean, a couple of years ago, the biggest payday was $200,000 or $500,000, and now $3 million disclosed, $15 million undisclosed. So, yeah, good for Rory. I'm glad he signed for a big amount. He's a vet. He is a huge name in the welterweight division. He can give Bellator some credibility. And that's it for this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. We will have some more news probably about pro wrestling. I just decided to split the podcast up today because there was so much actual wrestling this weekend. There's been 4 huge shows in the last 4 days, so there's a lot to talk about there. We have some new champions. We're going to have the Raw and SmackDown review as well as the SummerSlam review with analysis on Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton and what it means. Apparently Lesnar has used up all his dates in WWE. And he's not going to be able to fight in MMA, so we'll see what's going on there. And thank you for listening. This was our 10th show. Next one will be the 11th. It'll be out soon. So until next time, see you later.